All right, everybody, welcome back to the RAHAB podcast. Due to the current pandemic, this episode is being recorded through a video conference. So if you're listening and you're not watching on YouTube and you're thinking, oh, that audio sounds a little grainy, please just stick with us. I'm so glad that you tuned in today. And I hope that this episode and this conversation that we're about to have is valuable. And I pray that it's encouraging and it's uplifting to every single listener. I'm so excited, genuinely excited to chat with our guest today, Jason Lantz. Jason is the visionary leader of RiverTree Christian Church and the preaching pastor at the Portage campus in Jackson Township. Jason, thank you so much for making all this happen, for carving out the time and having this conversation with me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to chat with you, Greg.
Thanks. Jason, the goal of the RAHAB podcast, just to remind everybody listening, is to pull back the curtain and expose the issue of sex trafficking. But not just for the sake of talking about a scandalous topic, and definitely not for the sake of exploiting the victims again, because if we just want to talk about something scandalous to get clicks or to get views or to get attention, we're really exploiting them once again. And so instead of that, the goal is to create a network, because traffickers, they have a network that is keeping people in bondage. And so through a podcast, through conversations like this, through the work that RAHAB's doing with the partners in the community, I believe we can build a stronger network, and that ultimately through truth and through love, we can bring many, many more victims into freedom. I believe that the church is a key component in that network. And so I'm so excited to ask you why you believe responding to the issue of sex trafficking is really an area that the church needs to lead in. But before we get there, can you just tell me a little bit about, from your perspective, the partnership between RiverTree and RAHAB and kind of the story that's unfolded over the last 12 months or so?
Yeah, because it's been a great story. Every year at our Jackson campus that I'm at most of the time, we pray leading up to Christmas time about an organization that God is leading us to that'll help, that we can give financially to. We take a special offering up at all of our Christmas services. And so we start praying about this, right about now for the coming Easter. So we pray about this for months and months, and it's awesome how God always leads us right where he wants us to be, to the people he wants us to be with. And this past year, it was RAHAB. And we really feel that, God wanted us to do something local, something that was in our own backyard. And I know that as we got to know you, you really felt like God was leading you to do everything that you did in Summit County, in the Akron area, but now in our county, in Stark County. Right. And so we really just felt like God wanted us to reach out and say, all right, how can we help? What can we do to really help do what God is already doing with your organization with RAHAB? So anyway, got to know you through that, basically. Got to know all about your organization, got to know the love that you have for the people being trafficked and for the love you have for the church. And that really stuck with me. Your whole team really loves the local church, isn't just using the church for money or for volunteer hours, but really says we want to have a relationship because we believe that the local church is God's people that are on mission. And that really is who we want to be. So anyway, that's kind of how we went about it. Our big goal was to raise money for 2 drop-in centers, which I'm sure you can share a little bit later. That really are kind of an outpost, both a safe place for women who are being trafficked to go to and receive love genuinely right where they're at, as well as a place, I think, where volunteers from churches like ours can really connect and take a tangible step and know where to go and what to do. And so our goal was to raise money for 2 drop-in centers, and God is good. So we were able to raise that money. But Greg, I just want to say, it has been such a blessing to work with you and your team to kind of grow in our relationship. And I think that this is a relationship that's going to last for a long time.
Yeah, Jason, thank you so much for saying that. Giving away your entire Christmas Eve offering is a huge gift. It's a huge sacrifice that a church makes. And so for anybody listening, I was surprised by how many meetings happened leading up to that decision. And I remember thinking like, man, they are taking this decision so seriously. And that should be reassuring for anybody in their congregation and really anybody in the community. this was not a light decision for you, Jason. And I remember how much of an impact it had on me watching you walk through that process and watching the prayer that went into it, to the point where um, at one point I remember just thinking like, I just trust whatever decision he's going to make, whether it's us or not. And so thanks so much for demonstrating that for me.
Yeah, I kind of in that, Greg, trust takes time to build, but you can lose it quickly.
Hmm.
And what I've really learned over ministry over years in this area is that when the church trusts its leaders, and when the leaders trust the people and their heart and the culture that God is building at that local church, when individual churches trust each other and they operate not just on, transaction, but they truly trust each other. And
Yeah.
then when organizations, like across different domains, so nonprofit and church and business and education, trust is everything, and it takes a long time to build, and you can lose it right away. And
Yeah.
so
Wow.
it wasn't because we were just trying to be annoying that we took our
No,
time with
it's
this
not.
decision. But really, it's a trust thing, and we really want to be great stewards of what God is wanting us to do. We don't want to overpromise and underdeliver.
Hmm.
I'll tell you, I'm biased, of course, but our church, our people are amazing. Just I'm blown away every year by the generosity of our people, not just with their money, but their time. They
Yeah.
put their heart into this, their energy into this. And, once again, back to what you're doing, I really see a church that's excited to put their heart and their time and their energy and their resources into helping free victims of trafficking.
Yeah.
I see it, they're excited about it. And so, this relationship is only going to grow. And I think that God's going to allow us to not just do a one and done
Right.
offering, but to continue in eradicating this horrible thing in our area.
Yeah, for sure. So you talk about those amazing people that are in your congregation. Can you tell me a little bit, what has it been like over the last month, really shepherding and pastoring a group of people during this pandemic?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think that none of us saw this coming. None of us knew this was going to happen. This will never happen again, I don't think, in our lifetime.
Hmm.
But you really see who people are when stuff hits. When
Yeah,
adversity hits, you see what's really there,
so
right?
true.
And we haven't been perfect. All of us have had good and bad days, but overall, I'm just so proud of our church. I'm so proud of RiverTree. RiverTree, if you're listening, I'm so proud of you. Um, just people have stepped up to do everything on the list that would be needed to allow the church to continue to be the church.
Yeah.
Like we love the blessing we have of the facility I'm in now here at Jackson. We have all kinds of facilities all over Stark County, but the church is not the building. And that's easy to say, but when something like this hits, you see
Yeah.
that if it
Yeah,
really
for
is
sure.
true that the church is the people. And so on the small story side of things, I mean, there's countless stories of people that really are doing their best to love their neighbors, to love their families, to love their kids. They're stuck in the house with each other all day long. On the generosity side, people have stepped up and given and been generous, and just like RAHAB and many other nonprofits and churches, without people's generosity, no money, no mission. We can't function,
Yeah. Well,
And the
didn't
church
you
has
just give
stepped up.
away your Easter offering too?
Yeah, well,
In the
so
middle of all this.
well, I'll tell you, I really feel that the thing that God was saying to me was, look, you got a choice here. You can either hunker down and just take care of yourself, or you can really follow me in faith in this time and show off who I am. What God's saying, you can show off who I am. And he brought to over 30 churches in Stark County that have come together for an opportunity called Faith in Stark.
Hmm.
And really what we're trying to do is raise a lot of money for small businesses that are struggling.
Wow.
Small businesses, 10 employees or under. And it was like, it just came together just like that. And that's what God does. I'm not surprised anymore. It's what he
Right,
does.
right, right.
He connected this person to this person, this person. And before we knew it, we're on a Zoom call with, 25 faces. Nobody's really known each other before, but everybody's all in to collaborate for something bigger. And that's what we did this year.
I love that. So it's really struck me. One of the things that stood out to me is that how this current situation has really provided opportunity for some self-assessment. And you talked about that a little bit. Like when we get squeezed, we really see who we are. And for me, it's provided an opportunity that as things are being shaken, I've started to see areas of my life that maybe weren't planted on the cornerstone as much as I thought that they were. Have you seen this whole pandemic as an opportunity for that self-assessment? And if not, don't let me lead you into an answer. But if not, what do you think that that we have the opportunity to learn during these times?
Well, obviously our whole schedule's been thrown up in the air.
Yeah.
I've done more calls like this than I have in my lifetime in the last 3 or 4
Yeah,
months,
for sure.
Um, and in a good way, I think all of us are forced to kind of take out all the extra activities, like our kids' school stuff is not happening. So
Yep.
there's nothing every night, like we always say.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
ball games are not happening. They're doing homework, but it's, at a desk or on the couch online.
Mm-hmm.
We can't go anywhere except to go to the essential stuff. And so I think in a good way, it's kind of caused all of us to pare back and slow down enough to look at reality. And I don't know about you, but my biggest defense mechanism sometimes is speed.
Mm.
So if I don't want to show off what's really going on, I'll just move so fast you can't slow down enough to see it.
Yeah.
And I really think what's happened in this time is it's caused us to slow down enough where it kind of exposes some stuff
Mm-hmm.
about us, about our patience level, what we put our trust and our confidence in, just who we are when we have to be with people a lot,
Yeah.
and, I wish I could say that it's all been great, but it's been hard because it exposes what's really there.
Yeah.
And in a good way, I've, in my prayer time with God, I've been like, God, there's some things that I don't want to go back to.
Yeah.
Have this
Totally
kind of
agree.
re-enter whatever it's going to be process. God, I want to go at a speed that allows me to live as a man of God with integrity,
Right.
and not just smoke and mirrors and not just saying the right thing, but not really living it halfway.
Uh-huh.
I think right now we all have that opportunity. The
Totally.
teenagers that are hearing me right now, they got that opportunity. Spouses have that opportunity. I would say as workers, I don't want to say something makes everybody nervous, but it's showing like how much we do for work that we probably don't even really need to do.
Right.
We're just doing it because we don't know what else to do. And this
Yeah.
has really
So
pared
true.
everything back to where it's like, what are the essentials? Like what really needs done?
Mm-hmm.
What really needs paid for? What really needs my time? And then
Yeah.
you get all this other space where I think God's kind of trying to get at all of us and say,
Totally.
I want to make you the people I made you to be. And you've
Right.
got an opportunity in this time to really face that or not.
Yeah.
Um,
Or not, like you said. Yeah. Right. Like you can face that or not. Because even if you're home, even if everything else is slowed down, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make the choice to face that stuff or to spend that time with the Lord. Like you can still, even when you're stuck at home, fill your life with all the other things.
sure.
You can be stuck in a space but not still, stuck in a space but not at peace. And so I totally agree. uh, Rahab has had to make some adjustments during this time too, and but a lot of our programming is kind of business as usual because of the way that the stay-at-home order was written. It doesn't only allow for organizations like Rahab to do the work we're doing, but it encourages us to do the work to the extent that we're able, because especially when it comes to people who are stuck in domestic violence situations, people who are stuck at home with no food, in Rahab, the the life of a human trafficking victim very much is like the converging of a lot of times homelessness, a lot of times domestic violence or intimate partner violence, a lot of times mental health issues, not able to get access to food. All that kind of converges on the life of a human trafficking survivor or victim. And so um, the women that Rahab serves, they've been in crisis.
Mm,
They've been in life or death situations before the pandemic started. And so when I look at this whole situation, um, I think that the pandemic and the subsequent orders have actually provided an opportunity for our communities to feel in a new way the isolation that maybe a human trafficking victim feels, the hopelessness that maybe a human trafficking victim feels. And that's actually a reality. That fear is actually a reality for them every day, not just during this pandemic. But even in the middle of that, I wanted to say that you, Jason, you didn't need a pandemic uh, to help you see that the victims of sex trafficking have a desperate need for hope. Like, you didn't need that pandemic to open your eyes to that. So can you tell me a little bit about maybe either how you learned about the issue of sex trafficking originally, and how it's affecting Ohio, or maybe when that switch got flipped where you were like, I know too much now not to do something?
Sure. No, I remember the spot. So as I got to know your team and your desire to be more a part of what God's doing here in Stark County. I don't know if you remember this, but we had a meeting at the One Center for Leadership where we invited
Sure.
just a group of local pastors to come together and listen to you. So you guys got there, you did your thing, and you shared about Rahab and its history. And I remember sitting in that meeting thinking, oh my gosh, like this is happening here.
Mm.
Like I'd heard of trafficking, of course, because we all have, but it was always somewhere out there in some big city or around the world or whatever, but not here. Like, not like, this is Stark County.
Right.
And when I listened to what you guys were saying, I mean, I just remember that hitting me like, oh my gosh, like this is happening right here.
Yeah.
And, I love this area. God has put a love in my heart for Stark County. That's why I'm a pastor here, and it's a privilege to do it. And I almost feel like it's beyond my own emotions of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's like God is like, well, so if you're going to be a part of what I'm doing here, and this is happening here, then you're going to be a part of getting rid of this here.
Yeah.
It's almost like you don't have a choice, because that's our God is the one who sets captives free. It's what He
Yeah.
does.
Yes.
So if we're His people, we're going to be about that. And so I think just the reality that this happens here,
Yeah.
as simple as that is, I think I really heard that for the first time when I got to know you guys.
And so you think that message should be core to Rahab's messaging, and as we're communicating either with the church or whoever, that needs to be front and center.
Well, and the issue of human trafficking obviously is an issue that you're not going to talk to anybody that doesn't say it's a big deal or this is
Right.
important or but when you bring it down to like our neighborhoods, our our system of hotels, our system of organizations, of nonprofits, of like, this is happening right here. And I think that message, like, so if that's actually happening right here, local church,
Yes.
hands and feet of Jesus Christ, what are you going to do about what God wants to do about this? It's more than an emotionally driven decision. It's a decision that says, well, what will God do about this? And what we know about God is that God sets the captives free.
Yeah.
He speaks for those who don't have a voice. He goes to places and into the mess where people are, and He gives them hope.
Yes.
He's done that in my life. He's done that in your life. We all have different stories, but this is such a tangible way that we see the gospel lived out. And, I'd be first to say, I don't know enough about this. I really am so glad I know you guys in a relationship, because I want to be educated about what actually is happening instead of some rumor or big, thing I hear on the TV or just in general. I don't want to hide behind all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get to know really what's going on. So, one of the things I'm excited about in this partnership with Rahab is that you guys offer training, for myself, for the people in our church, where we can actually go through seminars and hear what's really happening, like real numbers, right? Real training about what to do and what not to do. We have the opportunity for that. And I think sometimes we jump right to what are we going to do to fix this?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's our first step, Greg. I think our first step is probably, what do we need to do to learn about this?
Yeah.
So if this is real and this is here, well, I want to know really what's going on. And so I need to get my butt to that seminar so I can hear really what's going on, and I can get trained so that I'm not just a person that's recklessly going out to try to fix something I have no idea how to fix, but I'm a person that's learning my part in that.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things we say at RAHAB all the time around our office is that you have to ask good questions, right? Like
Right.
we've been working as an organization with these women, with these children for 18 years or so now, but we don't want to ever assume that we know all the answers. We're not the outright, final word on this. And so we're constantly asking questions. We're going to trainings too. We want to be listening just as much as we're speaking, if not more. And so I love that you said that. And yeah, we've got, hopefully when all this blows over, we can have training after training. We can get everybody equipped, get them raised up, ready to go. And so you kind of already spoke to this, but I want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit more if you wanted to.
Sure.
So what do you believe the Big C Church role should be in responding to human trafficking?
Sure. Well, like I said, first of all, I think we've got to become educated.
Mm-hmm.
I will be first to say, I don't know. I don't know what to do. And I don't know about this issue beyond what I watched on my TV that is scary.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing we need to do in connection with you and other organizations that work to eradicate trafficking is say, okay, what environments do we need to be in to learn what's really happening right here in our own backyard? Secondly, then, and this is what I learned from you guys, I love that you have an approach that's not just like one thing.
Yeah.
So you have kind of the out there street ministries,
Yep.
outreach to women that are in strip clubs, outreach to women that are in very vulnerable positions. And that's like intense, right? That, to me, that sounds like the Navy SEAL team. I'm not there yet, man, but that's like prayer, straight evangelistic love, like going there, and you train people to do that. And you've got these drop-in centers that I love because it's like a great middle ground.
Right.
For a volunteer to say, well, I don't know if I'm the street team person, but like I would be happy to stock that place with essentials. I'd be happy to be there for some sort of study. I would be happy to be a volunteer that just loves whoever is there whenever. It's kind of a place you can go and volunteer to do it. And then you've got, full rehabilitation facilities that are safe, and we don't know where they are, and it's helping a woman go from where they are to a brand new life. In all the details. Like, so you have this like approach that has multiple levels of intensity and spots where a person might be in their journey. And so I think for a church, what we need to do is learn about those things and say, what is our best investment? Because sometimes you can't do all of it at once. You can't, right? You got to know where you're at. And I've always thought this with the local church. There are so many great churches in Stark County. So instead of having one church do a lot, what if we had a lot of churches do a little? I really think that approach would show off Christ more and show off less of our brand more. I think it would really show the different gifts of the body of Christ fitting in with the stuff that you do. So, so I think we got to be educated. I think we got to know the vehicles that you have. And then I already kind of said this a little bit, but I think the last thing then is to say, how can we be in relationship with RAHAB? Not just write a check and we're done and, let's move on. But how can we have a real partnership over the years for the sake of these folks that are being trafficked? How can we do this together over years? And I think that approach is very different because there'll be things that come up, right?
Totally.
So, we're doing this podcast now. I love this. But I'm going to chat with you the next week and the next week and the next week because we're in partnership. We're always working together. And I think that, just knowing you guys and that you're willing to offer that relationship to pastors, to churches, to congregations, and say, we love the local church. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. I love that you love the church. And that, you don't just want the church's money. You don't just want everybody's time. Like, you actually love the local church. And you know that when we get involved with stuff that God cares about, we will become more like him.
Right.
Which is what we want anyway. Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for emphasizing that. We really, RAHAB, since its inception, has had a lot of church partners, and we get an opportunity to speak in churches on Sunday mornings, on Wednesday nights, in small groups. And so really wherever the door is open for us to connect with the church, we love the opportunity to just come and partner and even if it's just share some information in a small group, create a connection, or bring a team out to RAHAB to do some work. For anybody listening who's part of a church, we have a church advocate program where if you're a member of a church, you can be kind of like the RAHAB advocate in your church, and you can be the point person who's going to communicate all the RAHAB information to your church. And so feel free to follow up with us on that if you're listening and you're interested in that. And so, Jason, I got a couple more things I want to touch on, but one of them is, so we're going to come through this pandemic where you said there are some things you don't want to go back to normal. And I would echo that all the way. What if the church could only grow in one area from this pandemic? And you know what I mean when I say grow, I don't mean like just in numbers. Maybe your answer is in numbers, but if we can grow in one area, how would you love to see it happen? Like, how would you love to see the church grow during these times?
Well, one of the first things that just comes to mind has been the effect that a digital platform has on ministry. So, most churches will do now their church service online. Their congregations can watch it in their living room, and that's great. We've seen people engage with church that have never gone to church at rates that it's ridiculous. I mean, it's crazy the amount of reach and connection to people that from the safety of their house are tuning in, and not just hearing a sermon from me or a worship service on a Sunday, but throughout the week. When our student ministries, our kids ministries, our missions development team are like, they're doing stuff on Facebook. They're doing stuff through social media platforms. They're doing stuff through videos and webinars and trainings, and people are engaging at a rate that we've never seen before. And so I think whether we like it or not, we're not going back. So we have to learn a combination now of both the gathering and the relationship and the tech side of things. So tech and touch. It's like you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
And I really think that that's something we've got to learn to do better, is kind of have this combination of weekend gatherings, missional communities that are focused on networks of people and neighborhoods, and now digital. And I think kind of can use all of it to really engage with people at various levels of where they're at. And honestly, I think that God in a good way has used this to give us a good kick in the butt to do stuff that we should have been doing a long time ago, and it really has been cool to see how the church has innovated, how people we're pretty resourceful, like we can do stuff. This isn't, I know we're in a pandemic right now, but we're doing this.
Yep.
And everyone's got a phone and everyone's got a computer. You can do this, so. Yeah.
I love that you said tech and touch. I don't know if that's a term that's being thrown around right now. I haven't heard it. So yeah, it's a great way to kind of put that in perspective. Yeah. So I want you to know that RAHAB is still on track. And this is kind of as I'm coming to a close here, RAHAB is still on track to open 2 drop-in centers in Stark County this year. And both of them were made possible through your Christmas Eve offering. And the story, I mean, I could tell that story for 20 hours straight, just the way that God used that gift, and then the relationships that RiverTree had to really make, almost to basically double what you were able to give as a congregation, which was a huge offering in the first place. It was one miracle after the next. And I just want you, and I want everybody listening to know that we are still on track to open both of those drop-in centers this year. And so what are you looking forward to most about that project?
Yeah. So for people listening, just for clarity's sake, so our goal was to help catalyze 2 drop-in centers. And one of them was going to be in a neighborhood strategically placed in the Canton area, and one of them was strategically placed in Jackson Township. So one of the things I'm excited about is that we're strategic about where these things are going to be.
Yeah.
that we're really trying to take a strategic approach where it's multiple churches, multiple people, multiple hands and feet that are coming together. Um, so I'm excited about that part. I'm also excited about the fact that, we have a couple of missional communities. These are communities focused on a specific cause or group of people or neighborhood that they've prayed and said, God, what do you want us to do? And Greg, you guys are it. I mean, God has put on their heart Rahab and
Yeah.
really serving what you're doing. And so I'm excited to see you've got, basically groups of 20, 30, 40 people that are all focused, their gifts, their energy, their talent on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's exciting to me too. I I also see this as a unifier. I think, like I said a couple times on this call, like I think that the church in Stark County is uniquely amazing. Like, I think God is doing something special in the local church. I think there's so many great pastors, congregations. We're all different. We all bring different stuff to the table. But I think that Rahab is something that we all can get behind together, where it's not a competition, where this is
Yeah.
clearly where Jesus would be. This is
Mhm.
clearly what he would be doing, who he would be loving, and we can link arms and do that together. So I see a lot of opportunity down the road for us to actually work together, not just say it, but
Yeah.
actually work together. And, if these drop-in centers are a geographic location where we can do that, all the better.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm so excited about that. And I think that there's already a bunch of churches, right, in Stark County that we've seen that even from that first meeting that you said, there was a bunch of people in the room that are looking to unify on this. And it's this issue of human trafficking, as horrifying and as hopeless as it looks sometimes, it is in some ways this great unifier. Because you see people coming together because there's like this common evil, if you would, where even across party lines, outside of the church, like in the secular realm, there's unity, because almost universally people will say it's not okay to sell people.
Right.
And so I totally agree. I'm just as energized, maybe as not, but as you are, because I know you're pretty energized about the unity part of this. But I'm just so excited about that opportunity to come together, to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and to see people come out of brokenness, out of bondage, and into true freedom. And so, yeah, I'm so excited about that. And I love, we actually, when we were planning these two drop-in centers, before I think we had even connected with RiverTree, we were asking the question internally, like, is it better to do a launch of one earlier in the summer and then a launch of the next one in the fall? Or is it better to push them later in the year and do a simultaneous launch of both locations at the same time? That seemed to be better for resources, from communications. And so this pandemic has kind of forced us into that option B of a simultaneous launch of North Canton and Canton, if not the same exact day, during the same time periods. And so that's probably where we're moving. And so I want to close by just reminding you of a story, maybe from my perspective, but you were there. So when we got together and we kind of went on this, I don't know how you would describe it, but it was a little bit of like a Holy Spirit scavenger hunt to find this location for the drop-in center in North Canton. And we knew we wanted it to be by the strip. We knew we wanted it to be by the truck stop over there. And we had a couple leads, but really it was just letting the Lord guide us through those conversations, those decisions, and finding the house that He would have for us to use. Not necessarily saying that's the one. Let's force our way into it, however it happens. And I just was in the back seat of that car driving around, and the way that you were navigating the situation, Jason, had just such a huge impact on me. Like the prayerfulness, the excitement, like the genuine excitement of being on the trail, if you would, or on, kind of like following the Lord in that. And so you would ask me at one period, we were talking about a red brick house on Portage, and you said, if you could have it, do you want it? Is that the house, Greg? And I had never been really asked a question that point blank before. Like, and it took it from the hypothetical into the real practical. Like, okay, if you can have it, do you want it? Is that the house? And then you jumped out of the car and went into a restaurant to grab a quick bite to eat, and kind of left me thinking about that question, and came back and said, so what's up? And so I wanted to let you know now, and you almost forced me to tell you ahead of time before we even started recording, but I wanted to show you this key, because this is the key to that red brick house on Portage. For anybody who's listening and is not watching,
Wow.
I'm holding up the key now that shows that we are actually currently renting that house. It's a reality. And I want you, Jason, to know that this key that I'm showing you, it represents hundreds and thousands of women in your area that are going to come into not only physical freedom, but they're going to come into eternal spiritual freedom. They're going to come to know the Lord because of the offering, because of the partnership, and really because of your willingness to let the Lord lead. And so we can go and put this key in the door and open it up and go into that house today. And so sorry to do that to you that way.
Wow.
But I just,
Praise the Lord. Gosh, that is, can I just say something? I've gotten to know Christ through joining him in what he already does.
uh-huh.
And it's a thing that has to flip in our head. But at one point in my life, he showed me that he's always on mission for his people that he loves. And he invites us every morning to join him in what he's already doing. That's a whole different thing than me saying, God, what do you want me to go do today? Instead, it's he's saying, I'm already doing this. Do you want to join me? It's an invitation from Jesus. And so like that drive with you is a great example of when that your mindset is, Jesus, you're already on mission. You're already doing this. You're already there. He just wants us to join him in it. So that, and as you were showing me that key, okay, so the verse, it's when Jesus says to Peter, and I'm going to give you the keys to the kingdom.
Right.
And the gates of hell won't overcome it. So he's the one that has the key, and he's giving us the keys. And when he has like the key to open up something, an opportunity for his glory, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's almost like this weird confidence, right? Like it's going to happen. Like the money's going to be there. The location's going to come up. The people are going to come together. And all the ways that our enemy wants to stop that, whether it's through our fear or accusations or just maneuvering circumstances, he can't win. So when that key, I mean, it's such a great concrete picture of how God just does this, you know, and he's going to set so many women free through that location. But God did that. God's already, he already knew that's what he wanted to do there. And Greg, he's just letting us be a part of it.
Totally.
It's just exciting, you know?
It's so exciting. And so I just, it's just another step in another part of this story that's been unfolding for, like I said, a year almost now. And so
yes.
I just, I'm excited about that. And I want you to know that we're going to do all the trainings. We are going to, we're going to have a party, if you would, and really launch these things the right way. But if we're able to utilize those spaces and we're able to have women come in and start receiving things that they need before we're able to, do a launch, like a proper public launch, we will start to utilize those spaces. We're not going to hold back programming for the sake of making a public launch. We're going to get the women in the community what they need as soon as possible. And so more information about all that, trainings and launches and stuff will follow. But this house is ready for us to use. And so I'm excited about that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so, I mean, I could chew your ear off for a whole day. And so I won't do that. Jason, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your perspective on the church during these times and the church's role. And I know that so many people will be encouraged by this conversation and what you shared today. And so for anybody listening, if you want to hear more from Jason, please, you can go over to rivertreejackson.com, where I'm sure you can find recordings of his messages. Also, the best way to stay up to date on all things RAHAB is really through our Facebook page. And then if you were to go to our website, rahab-ministries.org, scroll to the bottom of that homepage and sign up for our newsletter. We have tons of information going out right now via our newsletter. So for everybody listening, anybody watching on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in to the RAHAB podcast.